Hello, everybody, and welcome to the House Salt live show. We are covering our April book today. Don't worry about it. We're getting it done. It is Wild Dark Shore by Charlotte McConaghy, and I rated this hi, I'm Marines. My channel name is Marines, and I rated this 4 out of 5 stars, I think.
I'm Sam from Thoughts on Tomes. I think also a 4 out of 5 stars.
I'm Jordan from the Jordan Journals, and I think I gave it a 4.5 out of 5 stars.
Okay. Kayla?
Oh, sorry. I was waiting for Connor. Sorry. I'm Kayla from K Charisse, and I don't really rate books anymore, but I fucking love this, so probably like 4.5 probably for me. Bullying works. Bullying works because you guys made me stay in book club.
Yeah.
You started reading again.
Kayla tried to quit book club and she came back with a 4.5, baby.
And I'm Connor, and my channel is just Connor O'Brien, but I'm Connor booking it everywhere else. And I ended up giving this like 4 stars, but I also just finished it today, so it might shift.
A
success.
Yay! This is very exciting.
We had this much of consensus from like 4 to 4.5 stars. I love this so much for us.
A book I picked too.
Yeah, this was a Jordan pick.
I love this all around. Okay. This is a deeply character-driven book. We will talk about like setting and plot, but I wanted to start with the characters. So first up, we get Rowan, who is swept up on the shore of this remote island. How do you guys feel about Rowan? Do you feel like we got to know her enough? And like by the end, what were your feelings about her?
I mean, it was such like a this is such a chunk of a specific time.
Yeah.
So on one hand, it is like, okay, we know her. And I think that's part of the story is like, how much do these people like know her? There's a lot of like so many intense things happening. Like they bring her back from the edge of death. Right. Like, and so you have this like, and then everything really tumultuous is happening. But I do think that we got a good sense of her with talking about like, especially the backstory with her home being burnt down. And just like the mirroring of all this like climate disaster stuff happening. Like when she was talking about building her house and like going and all the different animals, and then after it burned down, going and finding like, what was it, like the wombats or something, like in the little god, like, yes, or like just the horror of like picturing her driving away from her home in Australia with all the animals like running to get out of the like fire. Anyway, I like feel like emotionally I get her. Like, do we know every little intricacy of her necessarily? No, but like emotionally we get her, and that's my girl. I love her. I love them all.
Yeah, I agree. She grows so much during this short period of time. Like she has so many realizations about her own life and how she viewed her own past, and then like over the course of this book, like how that framework shifts and changes, and the lens that she's looking through is painted by this new experience of being on this island with these different people. And yeah, I definitely agree. I think we got like a good snapshot of her and how she views her life at the current moment. So I really liked her.
Yeah, she kind of feels like one of those people where you don't need to know everything about her to understand her.
Yes.
Like, I feel like we understood where she was coming from, the decisions that she was going to make. I do feel like at a point towards the end, what she does is like in line with, yeah, that's how she's been shown throughout the book. And I expect her to do that. But like, we don't really know her whole life story.
Yeah, she's definitely like consistent. Like even from the beginning when she's like getting up half dead and letting her stitches bleed everywhere. Like she's like walking across the fucking island with these brand new stitches and being like, I'm bleeding down my leg. Like you're like, oh, this is a stubborn person. Like this is, and so I just like, you get that from the get-go of like, this is somebody who, if they value something or if they have a belief in something, they're gonna do it. Like even just when you figure out that, okay, she got on that boat because her husband, who she was estranged from, sent her like a distress call, and she has a bunch of trauma around boats, but she got on that goddamn boat. Like you start to just like realize again emotionally, like she's a consistent character. Like I don't feel like, you know, she's making choices that even when you're like, oh God, what are you doing? You're still like, no, she would do that. Of course she would do that.
But I also like that she like doesn't ever get to where like she doesn't. I almost feel like she still had so much room to grow, and it's cut. Well, you know, whatever, everything that happens. But like she is just now realizing she like got out of this like manipulative relationship where she kind of like lost herself in it. So almost like she just kind of adopted his love of plants, and so she like did all this stuff, and like the house burns down, and then she like gets to the island, and like she starts investing in these other people, and like starts taking on the things that they like, which I thought was like really interesting. So you like, you know, the like core of her, but she like often reflects the things of all the people around her, and I thought that was like really consistent throughout the whole thing.
I think that my thing with this character is like a comparison thing, like Rowan compared to everybody else. I don't know that anybody else was more developed than her, but I liked everybody so much. Like all the little weirdo family, like I love them so much. But when the story is like, who's keeping secrets? I'm like, it's Rowan. I don't trust that bitch. Like, I mean, I love the little weirdo family so much. So I think that the discrepancy for me was like a more of a comparison thing. But you're right about this being like a snapshot book, right? I said it was character driven, which is true. It's not like very plot focused, but it is very like we're watching them for this specific amount of time. We get some flashbacks and whatnot, but it's really just about this island and like you know, how them interacting with each other with like brief like shots of their trauma kind of coming in as well. So I don't know, I was kind of like, I don't really know her much. I will say that when we get to the tragedy of the end, I was sobbing. So I was like, oh, okay, so I feel actually deeply for this character.
That's how I feel too. Like her arc overall may not have been as, I guess, detailed and complex as the other family members, but there's just something about like how she finally like came to the realization about like she did not kill her brother when she was younger, and like she and then ultimately, I mean, we'll get to there in a second, but like dies for Orly. Like I don't know, there's just something so like full circle about that to me. And like obviously going back to what Sam said, very strong, a very stubborn, very strong Will's character, I think, a little bit. So yeah.
Yeah,
well,
I mean,
it's
even
such a
just the like
striking
fish out
visual
of.
too.
Go ahead.
I was saying just like the striking visual of her having like a shaved head too. Like I don't know, I think that like puts her in your mind like such a very specific kind of person.
Yes.
Yeah, and her like, I mean, the fact that she's also like the fish out of water, like almost literally, she, you know, gets washed ashore with this family that like the family is always going to feel kind of more fleshed out because there's all of these existing connections between each other and this history with each other and being on that island for so long. And she is coming in being like, I don't know what's going on. Like, and no one knows me and whatever. That like, there was probably always going to be a little bit of this like disconnect. And I almost like, there's something that I don't fully have like fleshed out in my head necessarily, but the fact that she like almost died and then fully dies on that island is kind of like I almost compare it to like a very extended hospice rally. For people that don't know, like people in hospice, a lot of times when they're like on the verge of dying, will have like one last rally where they're like fully like up and awake and whatever, and then they go. It almost was like it was inevitable that she was going to die in a weird, like once you get to the end of it. Which in a way, like again, like I think thematically was really cool. Like it wasn't inevitable in the way that I thought that was going to happen, but once it happened and her story got like contained on that island, I was like, poetically, this makes sense from like she was basically dead when Fen found her.
Yes.
And like she's been basically having a foot in death this entire time, and then she finally, you know, like. And also just like a little bit of death chasing her throughout her life, like with her like, you know, sibling dying and then her house burning down, like not in the full final destination kind of way, but like there's a little bit of this like death haunting her. And so, yeah, like this, it makes
her mom dying.
Yeah, her mom, like all of this kind of stuff.
On the island, she almost drowns. She almost gets flattened by a whale. Like there's multiple times you're like, oh, you're still going.
Yes.
And then there's also like a bunch. Dominic tells her like it's just a body, right? Like it's just there's so much around like her her presence, like her living, and truly, like, I don't know, there's that tension between how do you ever recover from trauma, and her whole thing was like, I'm never gonna build a house again, like I'm done. And in a way that you feel like maybe the story is about getting her out of that, and the story said no, she's done.
She's done. She's done. And the tragedy of like it being like she gets to this place where she's like, well, maybe I could build a house again, and maybe I could be with these people, and maybe this is my new family, and then she dies for that family. Like, it's just like, it is like, it's good, like it's upsetting and it's good, like none of that feels like, oh my god, we were like robbed, or somehow it was just like for shock value, like we're saying, it's all of these things like building up to it, that when it happens you're like, that's fucked up, and I get it.
When it started, I flipped through to see if there was any more of her POV before I kept reading.
I'm on the fence about whether or not, like, we needed it is kind of a weird way to say it. That's why, like, I'm one of the people who finished today, so it's not like fully settled in my feelings yet about whether I'm just upset about the story or if I have like a true criticism of like the story itself. Because it felt at one point, right, this is very much about grief, but at one point I was like, all right, already. It's like the layering of all the trauma and the grief, and like you have so many things, like I don't know, from like the brother dying and the house burning down, and like across everybody, the mother dying, their mother died, her mother died, statutory rape,
leaving her
twice, statutory rape, her husband leaving her, and it just kept coming. It kept coming, and then she dies, and I was like, I think maybe this is too much. Okay, we were going to talk about the end at the end, but you can't talk about Rowan really and talk about the end, right? Right. Okay, so let's move on to my weirdo little family that I love so much, starting with the dad, Dominic. How did you guys feel about him?
Daddy.
Yeah.
Daddy.
I texted Sam and I was like, well, Sam was like, how is he supposed to live after losing two loves? I'm like, I will comfort him.
So funny. So true though. Like, oh, he's just like a sad, like lumberjack kind of man. Like, I know he's on an island, but I picture that man is in flannel all the time. He has cargo pants on.
Yes.
He has tools in his belt. Like,
yes.
Okay. It's
you know what it's like
for us to have a consensus on a book. It is also rare for all of us to like find a man or character attractive.
Yeah.
And the fact that we were all like, Daddy.
We have to bump it to 5 stars just for the fact that like that. But like this is really like a 5-star house salt book, actually.
The thing that like really hurts my feelings about like his character is that like the wife, I don't know, quote unquote, broke him. Like it put him into this like really depressive place where he moved to the island, and then Rowan washes on shore and kind of like heals this family. And I was like, I can't.
This dead woman washes ashore, and they fall in love with each other begrudgingly.
Touches all of their lives and is able to like help all of them individually through things, and then she dies. Like it's just
yes.
That man is unwell and will continue. Like what we need to talk about is how after this book, I don't know. I don't know how he's gonna get through this. Honestly, like
expensive
therapy. He's gonna go live on her land and build a new house.
I feel like that's not going to really happen. You're going to show up with these two sisters' dead body and say, hey, can I live on her land?
I believe in my heart that they're going to say yes.
Absolutely not.
Getting me about him was like, obviously he loves his kids, is a very heartbroken man, but all of the bits where he was like thinking like, I cannot be a parent without my partner. Like that it repeatedly has these moments of like, she was the one who taught me how to be a parent. And now I'm like, and it just goes like deep into these like little moments where he's thinking about how do I parent, and I'm genuinely heartbroken the entire time.
Yeah.
I think it's just like he like makes so many mistakes with the kids, and it's like very obvious that he's like he's doing the best. He's doing a job, not the best he can do probably, but like he's doing what he can. And so I really appreciated that like he wasn't like this perfect like dad. You know, like he made so many mistakes, especially with his daughter. Like he like physically cannot fix that relationship without someone else coming in and like pointing it out to him. And I thought that his relationship with the youngest son was really interesting, just because like the two older ones were basically raised by their mom, and so the youngest one is like the one that he thinks is like his like first kid because he had to do it by himself. But
and there's such an age gap.
The two older kids were in the same boat as Rowan, raising their sibling. So I don't know.
Oh, I didn't even think of that.
Yes, there's so many things interwoven, or even just like the fact that he's obviously a deeply traumatized and damaged man, and he like knows that. Like he's sitting there being like, I know that I'm doing a bad job, but I also don't know what to do. And my kids have taught me how to parent in a lot of ways. My wife taught me how to parent. And I fuck up, but also like the way that when he finds out what happened to Fen with Hank, and he's like, I'm locking that man in a fucking crypt, basically. He's like, that man, I am locking him down there.
And I'm going to leave him.
Yeah, I'm going to leave him down there because that's the only way my baby is going to feel okay, is like if that man is gone.
Yeah.
And then his wife rolls up, floats to shore, and she's like, have you seen my husband? And he's like, I have not.
I simply have not. That man left. That man left a while ago. Yeah.
He's like repeatedly. She's like, are you sure?
That's his passport here.
Yeah.
Left his passport here. Was in a hurry.
Yep.
And she believes him.
Why didn't he just?
Know if she believes him. I think she's
if he was still alive.
Well, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, at first she was like a little suspicious, but then he's daddy. What are you gonna do?
He's daddy, and he's real hot, and like that, that makes sense. And also, I didn't believe that man was locked in the basement somewhere. I was like, that's the last. There's no way that this man is on that island still.
Time.
No,
nope.
I was like, that man is dead.
I thought for sure he was dead.
That man is dead.
100%.
I did not pick it up. Like I didn't like suspect it, but when it was like getting closer, I was like, oh gosh, because they kept talking about Jane Eyre like very early on in a way that, in Jane Eyre, the wife is locked in the attic. And so like, and there's that moment where she takes Jane Eyre and she like brings it back with her or whatnot. And so looking back, I was like, I see. I
don't know, like regarding like the twist there with Fen, I said to Sam, like halfway through the book, I just had this thought, like, what if something happened with Fen? To like, obviously something happened with Fen to make her live outside of the house. And I was like, what if something happened with Hank? And I was like, like, no way.
She was like, I thought this like half a book ago, and I was like, girl, I don't know how you did.
They go there. That they went there, but
I thought something happened with somebody else, like on the research. Like I did not think Hank at all for whatever, but like I was like, oh, something happened, right? And one of these men on the island, something has happened. But when it was Hank, I was like, oh shit.
I really didn't think about that at all, like regarding Fen. I don't know. I just accepted that she lived on the beach and that something happened between her and her dad, but I didn't think that there was like an extra person involved in making
factor.
That. Yeah, like an outside factor. Yeah. So that really shocked me when we got there. And then I was mad.
It's like enraging. Once you start seeing it like play out, you're like, of course. Of course that happened.
I should drown her.
Okay. Yep. I will say that whole thing though, like the way that we like when we found out that he's in that like cellar or whatever, and why, I don't know, there was something about the ending, like that's what kept it from being completely 5 stars for me, is like that's when it kind of went over into like, now this is finally too much. And I don't really feel like that was resolved like super well. Like when he does get out and then she just kind of like pushes him in the ocean and he drowns, I was just like, okay, like really anticlimactic. And it was like very unclear kind of like that it even happened. Like I had to go back and be like, is he gone? Like he's just gone? Like after all that, he's been in this basement for like weeks to months, and then she just is like, boop, and he drowns. Like I would have preferred.
How does he get there so fast?
No, he like runs across the island to go and kill her. That was also like the timeline of that was weird. If anything, I was like, I want those seals to murder him. Like I want the seals to like rise up and be like, that's our mom, and like kill him. But like again, it was very anticlimactic to be like, boop, and then he like, or he like tries to tackle her and like, you know, she
tries to drown her again.
Yeah, which is also just like a little much. But yeah, that I think that towards the end I was like, okay, some of this sort of falls apart here a little bit for me. But once we get to like he's in the basement, like that all stuff was good. Just like the very end right there.
Besides like watching Hank away though, like in my opinion, like the ocean and the island is very much a character. And I just feel like they were like protecting its own a little bit. I know like it's a stretch to think that, but like that's kind of how I saw it.
Kind of like I don't know, they just like talk about, I mean, again, it wasn't magical, but I did like how there were parts of this book that had this like magical, like you're like people are seeing and they kind of don't reference it. They're like, oh, Orly like hears ghosts. And like legitimately he does. And it's kind of like, well, this island is like soaked in death, and so it's kind of like, of course he does. Or like the, you know, Dominic like hearing his wife or whatever, it's like, is it trauma or is he actually hearing her? And the story never actually is like addressing that, which I kind of like that they do that. But there is this element to like them taking care of the island and the island taking care of
them in turn.
And then Fen also is like, you know, has obviously like a connection with the water and the seals, and like she's like part mermaid at this point.
Totally.
Like in a way also that feels like very magical, but it's not really addressed. But the like, I mean, it kind of is. The thing is that like Rowan gets here, and she has all of these thoughts about how connected with nature these people are because they are removed from everybody else, right? And like how these kids grew up on this island. They get to see nature sort of like untethered and unpolluted by anything, right? And so she's thinking all of these things about what would it mean to be so connected with nature in a way that like most people aren't. And her conclusions are very like, and the book's conclusions are like, sure, you get like these magical, you know, sort of beings, but also they're like, we don't know how to talk to other humans. And so it's like the book itself is also like very, you know, up in the air about whether or not this is good for them to grow up in this way.
Nicole just said this in the chat, and I'm like actually spiraling about it.
Why isn't
the only family member? Nicole, get in the chat.
Like seriously,
like the only person, I forget which kid that is. Like I forget the names of these people are like.
I think it might be. Is it Raph?
Raph. Yeah, the boy. Like I know all of them, but I don't know all of their names always clearly in my head. But yeah, the fact that he's the only one that doesn't interact with ghosts, and he's the only one that has a relationship with an outsider, who then dies. Like it's just.
Yeah.
I thought that one of the way that he connects with the ghosts is through music.
Oh my god!
Because one of the lines in the book is bring the souls to the house.
The whales.
So he combines the whale calls with his music to bring the ghosts in. That's why they were all dancing outside during that one scene when they were like, "Yay, we're a happy family," and then it falls apart.
Yes.
There is an afterword in the book where it talks about what she based the island on, like which real island, and it's like a really like bloodied history to the island, and it like kind of lends that idea that like land remembers and like it remembers like who treats it well and who doesn't, and this family like took such good care of this island, and so they, I mean, helped the characters out so that they wouldn't get drowned or wouldn't die or I don't know.
Well, and even the fact that then Rowan comes to the island and then she interacts with the island by taking that like really disgusting barrels where they boiled penguins and then turns it into art. So then she becomes a part of the family.
But also during that whole thing, there's a line that is like, we're doing this, we're making it art, but it's like almost foolish to think that like the other penguins don't realize what happened here because of that idea that like trauma passes through generations, right?
And even if they forget, it still is going through.
Yes, and so like that idea that the island remembers, that blood speaks, that the animals remembers, right? And they know who takes good care of them. It's like a very interesting like portion of climate change, like to think about, you know, the caretakers of the earth and like giving them sort of like magical connection to the earth as well. I was going to say something. Because we were talking about Raph also communing with ghosts, also losing his love in a very tragic way, right? They were getting rescued, and then those two rescuers died, and then Alex, out of guilt, hangs himself. So again, trauma on top of trauma.
Yeah.
But the whole thing now I'm realizing is that like everybody sort of like blames themselves for somebody's death. There's like so much of that idea of like, I don't know, being responsible for death around you, even when it is not, you had nothing to do with it, right? Their mom died giving birth to Orly, and Alex died because of his guilt when they were out in this shed that they were not supposed to be in. And so like there's all of this stuff about just it's a little grief island.
Yeah,
it is. It is. It's so traumatizing. Like the layers, like for such a book that's not very long and has a lot in it, and like we're having a little bit of complaints about there being so much stuff, but like it honestly was so interconnected that even with the amount of things that were covered, it still felt like it made sense to be interweaving all of these things together in a way that like yes, sometimes bubbled over, but not in a way that other books have when they overly bloat a thing with like so many themes. Like because the central themes are like trauma and grief and death, like you can just make all of these interconnections kind of like spiraling out, and it doesn't feel like, oh my god, you're trying to cover like every single theme ever. And like even the stuff about like how each of them chooses to handle it versus like going and secluding, Dominic trying to teach Rafe to like get his anger out with punching, and then Rowan being like, he doesn't get his anger out that way and you need to teach him something else. Like all of the even interconnectedness of how they deal with stuff.
Or like pretends it doesn't exist and has nightmares.
Yes.
He's like, I'm good. Your story didn't traumatize me about your fire.
Oh, that's good. I'm gonna memorize my seed facts. I'm gonna memorize my seed facts and like
yes. I'm gonna cry all over again. I will tell you that one of my biggest sobs at the end was Raph saying basically in his POV, he doesn't know how his dad is gonna survive this, but he's going to carry his dad on his back. He will carry his whole family on his back if he needs to. I literally had to like run for my phone and pause it and just have a little cry.
Yes. Yes. The whole thing is traumatizing.
There's that like.
Well, that's very much what Rowan did as the oldest sibling of her family.
Yes.
But also, so poor sweet daddy thinking punching was suitable for parenting. True, that is like right. He needed a different outlet that wasn't just punching. But then at the end, you get that line about him saying, "I'm going to carry my family on my back." And there's a moment where you're like, "Thank God that Dominic made Raph so strong." Right. And so, like even then, it's like saying, "Okay, maybe this wasn't healthy, but there was like an amount. He's doing a job, right? There was an amount of parenting that went in there that made these good." Poor traumatized kids, but they're like good in their heart. They're like right? Good
kids.
Yes. And they like love each other as a family unit.
When Raph even makes the line that like he goes and smashes his whale thing. But then he like thanks God that like he didn't smash his violin because he still has that. So like that's like in hindsight gonna be his like outlet.
Yes. I just love this weirdo little family so much. We talked a little bit about like the island and all of that, but I just kind of want to double back and talk a little bit about the setting, because I think that what's really unique about this author is that you have this snapshot book, you've got like the trauma stuff that could honestly lean a little Colleen Hoover in terms of just like the amount of stuff. But she's one, a very good writer, and two, like this setting, like the way that she talks about nature, the way that she infuses all of it is just chef's kiss. So how did you guys feel reading about the island? What were some of your favorite parts?
Yeah, I think Kayla's frozen.
Uh-oh.
Kayla's frozen mid-thought.
Yeah.
We're gonna get something. Oh, there you go. Okay, she's back.
I don't know what's going on. Anyway, I loved Orly's little interludes about like how the seeds travel, and I just thought that they were so beautiful. And every time they would come up, I'm like, I need like more of this. Like I'm not a nature person like at all. Like I even hate going outside for lunch like a Nut Fest. But anyway, I was very drawn and very interested in all of the stuff that she provided in this novel. Like I just thought Orly's interludes were just so good.
And like the research about the different kinds of seeds, like I didn't know that seeds looked like that. And then when you get to the end and find out that he saved certain seeds that just because he loved certain plants and like just disregarded some of the stuff. And like, and again, I was like, I didn't know seeds.
The seeds that don't do anything for humans, that are just there for the beauty of them, which I was like,
well, and Ordley also, so like I am a plant, like I'm a huge plant person, like plant nerd, nature, love all that, have all the books. So he was saving all the plants that are specific to other animals as well. So like other animals that rely on the plants, even though they can't help humans, they help those animals, which then helps the food chain. And then I also liked that like the interludes for Ordley were almost like he gave
like
those
journal
interludes,
entries to you.
They were comfort journal entries towards Rowan. And like Rowan's whole thing is that she can't stay in place. And so every seed story for the beginning part is always seeds that travel long distances. So they blow on the wind, they can travel hundreds of miles, they attach to a bird, they go to a different continent. And then at the end is the last story he tells where it requires fire and burning to burst and it has to stay in place.
Connor, stop it.
So it was like this whole arc of like he's like guiding her to being okay with staying in one place.
And then she dies. And then she dies in the
But then she like turns it around and like does the same thing to him just at the very end. So I really liked the nature with Ordley and Rowan because he's like constantly comforting her because he spends all those nights with her.
I did not pick up on that. There was one about dandelions and how much like people hate.
I'm sorry, Jordan.
Well, there was one about dandelions and how much people hate dandelions and they pick them because they're weeds. But then like the way she explained dandelions, I'm like, I will never kill a dandelion again.
I know. Really, like I know we've mentioned it, but like, so I was, for people that are watching, I had finished this, I think before everybody else did. And we were at BookNet Fest and I was like, did you guys read this book yet? And everyone's like, no. I was like, you have to. Like, because it's such a good book to talk about because of how much shit you can talk about. And it is genuinely really, really well written.
It's really
like,
well written.
You can tell as you're reading it, like for all the people that are like, I turned my brain off. Like, I don't know. You can just, the sentence structure and just like the way in which this is written is so beautiful. Like you can't read this and not go, this is incredibly well crafted, even if it's not for you. Like it's well crafted.
And it is so smooth. It is such a smooth reading experience, right? There wasn't a moment that I was like tripping up or like, what did she, it's just like incredibly smooth. This is what I mean when I say I want a vibes book. Because like this is vibe heavy. This has such a feel to the setting. Like you can picture the island is alive, right? It's descriptive without being distracting, but there's still other stuff going on and it is still well written, right? It's not creating vibes just by like repeating about, I immediately think of like Rachel Gillig in One Dark Window where she's just like fog for like 400 pages and everybody's like, what a vibe. No, but this had so much detail, tell you plants, animals, the ocean, like it built this really beautiful world. So very well written.
And I think that she was really intentional with each pairing of the kids. Like, so I already discussed the trees with Ordley, but like with Fen, she's really into these like seals and like she makes multiple comments all the time. Like these seals stick together for all time. And like Fen towards the end of the book is like, I will never abandon my family. We are always going to be together. Like even if she feels slightly apart. And then with Rafe, Roth, he's like really into the whales and like the strength of them. And then like he is the one that's talking about how humpbacks will like protect others. And so like that's so much a part of his situation is that he's trying to protect all of his other siblings. And like so like each of the pairings and even kind of pairing what's the dad's name? Dom with the albatrosses and like how like they like don't have that many seasons left and like they're like hoping to like be together and like maybe this last thing will hatch and be okay. And that was like reflective of how Dom and I think her name is Claire were like going to be together forever and like they were hoping that this last baby would hatch and then whatever, it doesn't work out for one of them. So
you describing that made me realize that Rowan almost dies when she washes up on shore and she's saved by Fen, right? By the rocks. Like this is something that really represents Fen is the ocean, the rocks or whatnot. Then she almost dies by the humpback whale. And she's with Raph at that point, but she survives that one. But then the final time she's with the seeds, she's with and that's what eventually gets her. So again, there's like that three-peat, there's that pairing that is like very intentional. Oh my god, it's so good.
That whole like description reminds me of like when we used to do book tags and Connor would go on this like really
dark
existential like
my Connor would go to a very dark place. And, like,
you know what, guys? I just want to make you all cry.
But
no, it was good.
I mean, like,
it's so nice to be all like a book. It's not. It's a rare thing that we're all just like.
I don't know. This is making me feel like maybe I still think that the last 20-ish pages. I don't know how much I was listening. The last few chapters happened too quickly. I do feel like it was kind of like a rush to get there, and I also think that maybe it was like one too many traumas on top of each other. But thinking about like talking about it and all of the intentionality in the way that it was built, like maybe this is 4.5. I know. I'm feeling better about it.
I know. There's a few little like missteps, kind of. That might also just be like personal opinion, but yeah, I think that even the part at the end where like, yes, the end feels less like it does feel a little bit more like rushy or whatever, but then it's like because Rowan dies and she's like our anchor to that place, and like and then she dies, and you're also like in shock once she like I was in shock the rest of the book, even though I was like, because I read so much fantasy and sci-fi that my brain is always like, this person's coming back to life, and I had to be like, you are reading a contemporary fiction. This person is not coming back to life. Like this, sure, she is dead. But like, and that whole piece of like, okay, this person we've been following since she washed ashore is gone, and so the story is done. The snapshot that we have, even though this family's going to go on because they existed before her, like there's also this element of feeling like, and maybe that's part of the disconnect with Rowan a little bit sometimes, is like, it's almost like she's a figment that only exists on that island, even though we know that she has this like before. Like we solidly have this before with the family and the after with the family. But it's almost like she just was there, like during that particular point in time, which is why she feels like a ghost too. Like Rowan is, and now she is a ghost. Oh my god!
I felt like Rowan's. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
No, go ahead. You're fine.
I felt like Rowan's like nature connection was with the penguins. Like she had the connection with changing the like barrels or whatever. But even when they're doing their first time across to get to the seed bank, or at least like. These penguins are like on a flow, and you have to like wait for a break to get through, and that's like what she does throughout the story. She like waits for different opportunities to like get through and like make the connections with the different characters. So that was I was like, if all of these characters are connected to some nature element, I was like, okay, so penguins are obviously hers.
But
Connor, where's the YouTube video essay?
Right?
Yeah.
Seriously.
You could almost.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
No, her name, Rowan, right? I think it's spelled differently in the book, but there is a type of tree called a rowan tree, and they're protective trees. They like are often used like in fantasy, in mythologies to represent like warding off evil and protection and things along those lines. So there's like a sense also of like, you know, like Nicole said, of that ultimate staying in one place, right? That she's kind of been rooted to the island at the end of this. I hate this book, actually.
Like, and Nicole said it in the chat too, but this thing like broke me was when she's dying and she like sees Claire's ghost, and Claire's ghost is like welcomes her basically to the afterlife because she also saved her son.
And
like,
yeah, and I love the fact that like that was probably actually Claire's ghost, and then like Dominic realizing that Claire's ghost that he had wasn't really Claire at all. Like that's just
that was his brain. Yeah.
Yes. You could argue too, if you wanted this to be like more magical, that she died at the beginning of the book, and like it was a spirit version of her, or like a hallucination version of her that like cared for the family throughout the book too.
Yeah, like there's again, even though I don't think that that's necessarily what happened, there is this like sense of that, because it's like she was like dead.
The feeling it gives you.
Yeah, she was already.
It says repeatedly too, like how could she have lived through that? Because the captain like was like, you know, battered to screams and stuff. There is that sense of
the
like,
humpback whale barely moving, like we said before. Like she was supposed to die, or like again, or she's like had a foot in death this whole time. So
Nicole has changed her mind about how many women have had to die for Orly to live.
Yeah. Maybe he's not compatible with life. Or even just the thing, like, I mean, I know that we've kind of talked about how everybody blames themselves for certain deaths that have happened, but at the end, when you find out that Orly was the one that broke the comm system,
Oh yeah, I know.
and
I
like,
was shocked.
if they had the comm system, a lot of this wouldn't have happened.
Yeah.
From the timeline of things. So like this boy that women keep saving actually caused like all these deaths too, but like innocently. Like it's not like he thought anything bad was going to happen, right? He's like a little kid.
Yeah.
But like he was the one that broke the comm system the whole time.
Yes.
Yeah.
But it's like also Hank and his manipulation and all of his like narcissism and I
Yeah.
do you think that
Who was his mentor? And he said that.
Right. Did Rowan know he was a narcissist before getting to the island, or is that something that she realized while she was there?
Sounds like she kind of knew before, but she wasn't necessarily like thinking about. Because she said she warned Fen, like she would like when she figured out that like that's what had happened, she was like, this man is a narcissist, it is not your fault, this is what he does. But I kind of liked that, even though at the end, again, some of the stuff with Hank I feel like was a little bit too swift, that like we didn't have a book that centered around this narcissistic man. Like, you know, there's so many stories where you have the like, you know, narcissistic antagonist man, big personality, blah blah blah. And so it was kind of nice that it was like, yep, this narcissist who was awful showed up here and fucked up a lot of stuff. We threw him in the cellar. And like, it wasn't this whole, like, she wasn't thinking about him a lot, right? To the point where we were kind of thinking, like, she was kind of going over the trauma of their relationship. She was like, hey, he liked me when I was bright and shiny, and when everything was bright and shiny and he couldn't handle hard stuff, he left. Like, and that's that. But then when you figure out everything about Fen, then she's able to say, like, this is how he is. Like, he is a charismatic person.
Well, I also think like, and I don't know if she like realized it so much and so like in the words exactly, because she does describe him early on as like almost gaslighting her into like saying that like she has like constantly and we'll see and whatever, like kind of not been very firm about not wanting to have children, and like he was trying to narcissism his way into having kids with her. So
there's something along the lines like, can't you just do this for me? And I was like, sir, that is a human child. Like, what do you mean?
When he's like, you're not gonna die, and I'm like, she very well could. You don't know. Orly's mom did.
Sweeney pointed out something, and I agree. Like, I thought it was going to fall into that trope that she wasn't going to believe it after this whole time, and it like quickly got resolved. And I'm like, thank God, because like I think I would have hated that a little bit. But
but she was like, no, my husband would do that. My husband's a piece of shit. Like,
she. And I think it goes to show like how much she felt, I don't know, like connected to this family to instantly believe them over this man that she'd been married to for years. She's like, no, this family is obviously telling the truth.
And she made the decision to let him die. She just like went along back for the ride when they realized that Orly was missing. Like she was gonna be like, okay, you can die.
Oh my God, Orly's chapter when he's like, I didn't get to say that like it's like filling it with water or whatever, like, and he like left him there. I was like, this man, Dominic was better than me. I would have killed him.
Seriously.
And it would have been a super interesting story had he killed him, right? Because then you get like a different sort of reaction from Rowan when he's like, yeah, and I do it again. Crap, I had one other thing to ask and then I forgot. Any other thoughts about this book? The end, the setting, the characters. Have you guys read anything else by McConaghy?
No, but they're on my Kindle. I am ready.
Read the Wolf one?
Yeah, but really good.
Yeah, and I think I rated it 4 stars as well. I forget what.
There's a Wolf
one.
It's called Once There Were Wolves, and then also
Does she go and hang out with wolves?
Oh no, there are wolves in the story. And it is like this also, it is very like setting driven, like very vibey. I think I had similar sort of like reactions where I was like, about the plot and some of the things that happened. But I would be interested to go back and read it again because I feel like I have a better sense of like the kinds of stories that she's telling. And I didn't know, maybe I missed some of the connections and the deeper things that she was doing because I was just like probably there for the plot. And I think you need to be there more for the characters and the vibes if you're reading work from her.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like I totally didn't pick up on any of the connections with the kids and their like hyperfixations that they have, and like how those mirror their personalities.
Mm-hmm.
Never would have picked
It's
up
a
on that.
good book club book. Like it's a really like you need to discuss her books with other people
Yes,
because it is such a good like there's so many layers to them that it's really good for discussion.
Kayla, I have homework for you, and it is to write a fanfic about my man Dominic finding love for a third time and living happily ever after.
And her not saving Orly. Like,
Yeah.
that boy has to be safe. Put him in a bubble somewhere. Like, no.
I'll work on it. I'll get
Do you have any like additional thoughts to the seed vault? I don't know if we ever like, or like saving the seeds because they don't want to return back to the general world because it's bad. And like, does he want to take his kids from this safe place that's inherently unsafe?
Like
Yes.
it's gonna drown. It's gonna be underwater at some point. I also was like, there's multiple seed vaults, right? There's not just one in the world.
There's not.
more
That's
than
the main. The main one is the one in like.
There's a main one.
Svalbard.
The one that's
Antarctica?
Svalbard.
Svalbard. The woman that has that
Svalbard.
little dog down in Svalbard on
Yes,
TikTok.
yes,
I know
yes.
that island. I know that
The one
island.
where you can't live there if you're like old or pregnant after a certain point, right?
She had
Yeah.
to leave the
So-
island.
So yeah, the whole seed thing too. I was like, are these are all the seeds? Like that's we put all of our stuff in one seed vault. That feels like a bad idea if that's like legitimately what happened. Like because shit like this. So yeah. Anyway, that was
Well,
something
she
that I was
did
a little bit
say
like, oh
in
no.
the back of the book that I think it was the Svalbard one in 2017 due to temperature increases, their
Started increasing,
tunnel
yeah.
did flood, and because the permafrost started to melt. So like that's also a real problem.
I also, Sweeney just pointed out like the climate change was more advanced and like and
Yes.
more progressed in this story versus our real world. And
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, it's coming. That's not that far off.
terrifying.
I thought it was just really interesting how each of the characters viewed the seed bank. Like they like some didn't think it was that important. It's like whatever, these seeds, whatever. But like Hank, the ones that he was trying to save were like all the ones that humanity would want for food. And then and he prioritized cultures, which was, you know, he's extra horrible for like, oh, we're gonna prioritize this group of people and like save their seeds, and then we'll get to this other group of people later. I don't care about them as much. And then Orderly was like, I'm saving all the seeds that can save as many
Species.
as much life as
Systems,
possible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which was interesting too, because obviously Hank was the one teaching him all these things about all these seeds, and like his Orderly's viewpoint of these seeds was not influenced by him. It was influenced by everyone else in his life, and like how they view life differently than Hank does. So Hank was like trying to drown everybody and kill all the seeds because no one can have them. Meanwhile, throughout the story, all of the other characters are trying to do as much as they can to save everyone. Finn's was the first one to save someone, saving Rowan, and then saving the whales on the beach. And like, then Rowan, also with the whales, confronts Dom and's like, this is not going to work. We should be saving these seeds instead. And they're like, well, these are the things that are alive right now. Like, let's save these if we can. So I thought it was interesting, those like shifts in perspective versus like the seeds.
Well,
And Orly's just a
even
sweet
though-
boy. Orly's just a sweet boy, and Nicole's right. The woman had to die to save that sweet boy. He's just a baby, and like
He's only 9.
I love
Yeah, he's
that
just
little.
a kid.
I love that little autistic boy. He loves his seeds, and like he's so sweet, and he doesn't like. He's such a good boy.
I don't know. There's all the climate change of it all is like, I don't know that it's like a looming horror, right? Because
Yeah.
her house burns down, but the implication is, right, that there are these brush fires that are sort of out of control. And like part of the reason is just like, what am I supposed to do? Build again to get it like burned down? But she gets to this island that is like slowly being drowned. So
Yeah.
Like the implication is there are no good places left
Right.
to live, in a way that is like really interesting as a backdrop for the story about like grief and impermanence and like how do you build family and connections, especially in a world that is like slowly, becoming uninhabitable.
Yes.
But then she meets Dom, and he's like, well, I can't save everything, but I can do what I can to fix what I can while I'm here.
Yes.
And so she kind of starts to adopt that mindset a little bit. And that's why she's like, well, we can go wherever and build again. Just because he's like, well, let's fix what we can do. Like, let's do what we can do and pass that to his children.
And that whole mindset
parallels the way that they react to the fire too. Like Hank versus Rowan. Hank trying to run and pick up all their materialistic things that are essentially replaceable, and her being like, that's not worth our time to spend.
That was the first scene when I got really annoyed with Hank because, like, your house burning down is deeply sad. But she was saying how he like was going through every little thing and being like, my trophy, and like sobbing, and I was like, sir, like.
I also like that he's like the only American.
Yeah, and like just like, and he had gotten all of his like shit sent over, his like childhood trophies. That's actually there were like seeds planted for this man being a narcissist, because it's like, why do you have all of this like shit to say how great you were, and you're like so upset it burnt down and no one could like those things when he was going through and being like, I don't know, he reminded me of somebody I know in real life, and I was like, oh no. Like,
I feel like Charlotte feels some type of way about Americans now that you pointed out.
Oh, well, there were some others. Like Alex was also an American, but the one other thought I had, and this is my new theory about what happens after this book, is we don't actually see Hank's death on the page, and so he almost died by fire, number one. Then he almost drowns, number two, and now he actually survives, and he's the only one on this island where he will starve.
Oh, wow.
Oh, I hope he does.
Because those are the three things that they say: we're either gonna starve, drown, or burn.
Video essay. Come on.
I will say also, this is super not a plug, I swear to God. But as I was reading this, I found it reminded me so much of The Unmapping, which is the first book that I acquired for my imprint. The tonally very different. But if you take like background climate horror and set it in a city instead of like out in an island, that's kind of The Unmapping. And it's told in a similar way where you have like a patchwork of point of views. They're more contained in Wild Dark Shore. In The Mapping, you get like a core cast of characters and then just like random people chiming in as well. And then also it's like not very plot driven. It's like very character driven. So the entire time I was reading it, also I was like, this is what happens if you put The Unmapping on a little island. Like, if you guys did read this and you liked it, check out check out The Unmapping.
I was talking to her, the author of The Unmapping, and like during dinner that one night, and she was like, a lot of people come up to me, they're like, what did you think about this? And she's like, what did you think about it? And I was like, we've done a lot of that in this conversation.
Yeah,
she's telling me too, like, because people will be like, when you did this specific thing, like it spoke so much to this, and she's like, I'm glad you got, like, because
you got it.
Yeah, she didn't necessarily write those things into it, but it's a book like this that you can read so much into it, and so people are like reading into it, and she's like, I love that you got that.
But a lot of that stuff will sneak in, like you don't even like mean for it to. So
yes.
Right.
Like I doubt she meant all the things. Well, maybe she did. I don't know.
Maybe she did. We don't know.
It did feel very intentional, and a lot of like what you pointed out, like that felt very purposeful.
Yes.
She likes the 3-beat.
You can tell it's like very informed, very well researched. Like there's like, for as like magical and sort of otherworldly as it feels and sort of out there, it's very much grounded in like you can feel like a knowledge and a research there about like the world and nature and all of that. So cool. Anything else about this book, Wild Dark Shore? I am so happy that we got to have this experience.
Yay!
It was 2 months late, but a win is a win.
A win is a win.
And
we already have the next
one so soon.
Yes, we already have the next live show.
I already read it. Like
I've already read it.
Kayla's way ahead.
I have not. What is it?
Great Big Beautiful Life.
Beautiful Life.
Oh.
The new Emily Henry.
Yeah,
I have it.
Our live show, Sam?
It's next week. It's the 8th.
Oh,
Oh, okay.
Oh, okay, good to know.
That's going to be your plane read. You're going to read on the plane.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
Yeah.
And then what is our Great Big Beautiful Life is our May book. What is
May
our
book?
June book?
June is the Bury Our Bones in the Midnight Soil, right? V.E. Schwab.
That's the,
Jordan just did the
Victoria.
Jordan just did. Yeah,
Schwab.
V.E. Schwab.
Okay.
The new V.E. Schwab book.
The Midnight Soul by that one.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All
They
right.
are, the next set of books is all listed down below in the description of this video. The next set is always listed in the live show description.
Kayla, bullying still works since you already read Great Big Beautiful Life.
I am here.
Incredible.
All right, we will see you guys on the 8th to talk about Great Big Beautiful Life. Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll chat soon.
Bye.
Bye.